So, um, listen, we are in trouble. We are in trouble as a people. Okay? It's African American History Month, and we're talking about the things of, history. We're talking about, and history is important. Okay? Um, but we also need to do something about our health. There's a lot of things that we need to do to help ourselves. I am a nurse who I work in a cardiology office. One of my the things that I do and talk about is heart health. I talk about heart health. I think it's important. Um, the fact that I work in a cardiology clinic is bonus because I do like talking to people about heart health. It's important. We got to do something. And, so two things to know about me. Um, I think heart health is important. Okay. The other thing is, I'm very concerned specifically with African Americans because I am African American and I see a lot of people of color come in, not just African Americans, I'll say people of color, because I see people of color come in every day and I talk to people of color, and it seems like they don't get it when it comes to their heart health. Or they may get it, but the conversation that I'm having with them, it doesn't appear that they understand. Okay. One day I was talking to a lady and um, she had diabetes and she had heart issues. And by the way, when you have diabetes, you have a higher risk of having heart disease. Okay. Just kind of goes hand in hand. It's one of the top risk factors for heart disease. So if you never had heart disease before and you've only had diabetes and then all of a sudden you have heart disease, don't be shocked. It's a risk factor for heart disease. Okay. So she happened to have both. She was on several different medications that she decided that she was going to stop. She wanted to try alternative therapy to help get her heart together. Okay? I'm all for that. If you have a plan to help your heart health and it's something that can work, do try it. If it's something that causes you not to have to use a lot of medication, by all means, go for it. Okay? I would encourage you to do a couple of things though with that. I would definitely encourage you to consult your doctor, get your labs tested, see where your base levels are, meaning what is your levels before you start this venture. Okay? And then monitor, your vital signs. Okay? If you have hypertension but you decide not to take blood pressure medication, that's okay. But if you have hypertension and you also are not monitoring your blood pressure, you're going to kill yourself real fast. Okay? Because how can you use an alternative method and not measure if it's working? Whatever you're doing, I guess that's number three or number four, should be measurable. So, whatever you decide to do, you have to have guidelines for yourself to measure what you're doing. Because how will you know if you're doing it correctly if you don't measure it? So I talked to this woman and she told me that she's not going to do this and she's not going to do that. She's not going to do this. She's no longer going to take this med or that med. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, but can I make a suggestion? She said, okay. I said, why don't you, because she also needed, she had diabetes. I said, are you measuring your blood sugars? And she was like, no. I said, you should probably get a blood sugar machine, a little $14. At the time, there were some that was as cheap as $14. The strips might be a little bit more expensive, but if you really want to make sure your health is doing well, If you really want to measure your health to make sure that you are moving in the right direction, shouldn't you monitor your blood sugar? So I told her, I said, well, if you're going to stop all of these meds, then I think it would just be reasonable to make sure you check your blood sugars at random, or check them before meals and then check them 2 hours after meals just to see what they're doing. That doesn't require medication. It doesn't require anything other than checking your blood sugars. And that was the other thing. She felt that the medications was causing her blood sugar to rise. That's why she wanted to stop the medication. Thank you, Holy Ghost, for letting me remember that. She wanted to stop the medications because it's causing the blood sugar to rise. I said, well, then what I would do, by all means, stop the medication. I said, but then I would measure my blood sugars over the next month to see if they're moving in the right direction. You know what she said to me? I don't need to do that. Okay. I wonder where she is today. If she is in good health, I would be very, very surprised, because and we have to stop living by a wing and a prayer. I am so tired of people living by wings and prayers. I'm tired of people living off the prayers of others and yet not doing anything for their own health. Okay? I can say that because I was one of those people. All right? For about, I don't know, I got out of the military in 1997, and I did not go to the doctor until about 2012. So you do the math. Why go to the doctor? I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm fine. I'm still healthy. I'm still relatively young. I don't need to go to the doctor. And when I went to the doctor, and I'm a believer. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ, okay? That's part of my belief. That's who I am. It is what it is. That's who I am, okay? So before I went to the doctor in 2012, I'm praying to God that everything's going to be fine. And I'm believing that God can do miracles and He's going to save me and He's going to change the outcome of the decision. And I go in there and the doctor does all these testing, and I found out that I had diabetes and other things. But the big thing was, the devil is a liar. This is me talking, okay? I'm not talking about anybody but myself. The devil is a liar. I don't have diabetes. There's no way. But I had a family history of diabetes. Every single brother and sister on my mother's side of the family, including my mother, had diabetes. My grandmother, who died at the ripe old age of 43, 44, she died of kidney failure because she no longer wanted to go do dialysis. I can guarantee you she had diabetes too. I can guarantee you. Okay. Um, and heart disease. My mother also had, she was born with an issue with her heart, but not only, because my mom's brothers and sisters had diabetes first. Okay. And then, let me make sure I get it right. My mom she was a part of 6 children. So my mom and all of her brothers and sisters had diabetes. All of them. My mother was a middle child, so she was the oldest daughter, but she was the fourth youngest. Okay? Okay? So my oldest Uncle Buster had diabetes, my Uncle Edward had diabetes, my Uncle Joe had diabetes, my mother had diabetes, my Aunt Alice had diabetes, and my Aunt Mimi had diabetes, all of them. But then strokes was also a real issue in the family. My mom had a stroke, my uncle next to my mother, Uncle Joe, had a stroke, my Uncle Edward had a stroke, and my oldest uncle, Uncle Buster, he died of a stroke too. Okay? He ended up on dialysis. He died of a stroke. Okay? So that's what, 4 children out of 6? So those are risk factors that I talk to God about. I that won't be my portion. Not because I can sit here and confidently say, because I know who Jesus is and I know who God is, that that's not my portion. Okay. I believe, and I am a believer, but what I also believe is let's not be, let's not live in ignorance. Okay. Because the Bible tells me that my people perish for lack of knowledge. One version says, my people perish for ignorance. Okay. That means that what we choose not to acknowledge, what we choose not to talk about, is killing us. And we're dying every day. And I know a lot of people who are sick and believe God and still die. But one of the big problems is, other than there's other things, okay, we won't get into the other um, things that cause people to die that's outside of the realm of health or outside of the realm of what they can do, because there's things that happen that we have no control over, okay? God is God, and he can choose and do and heal whoever he wants, however he wants to. But sometimes every sickness is not unto death, and every sickness is for a reason. Sometimes things happen because we need to be taught things. Sometimes things happen so that we can do something about it as well. We want God to do something, and God is showing us, because God is showing us that we need to take care of ourselves. Okay, I'm not really sure, and I know that I don't really know Jesus that well. Okay, when I say I don't know Jesus, I don't know his description. I'm not talking about the color of his skin. I'm not talking about his body mass index. I'm not talking about, if he had any type of illnesses or sickness, because it doesn't say anywhere that he was ever sick or ill. And everywhere Jesus went, he was walking. He might have been on a donkey one day as he went through on Palm Sunday, affectionately known now as, but he was walking everywhere he went. Okay? He had people walking with him, so I don't think that he was huge, big, and fat like myself. I ain't talking about none of y'all. I'm talking about me. I don't think that he was big. I don't think that he was overweight. Um, they talk about the diet that Jesus had. I may not know all of his diets, but I know he hung around with some fishermen who fished. I know that he was hungry one day and he went to a fig tree because he saw figs on a tree and he plucked one off. So he was eating fruits and vegetables. I know that they grew olives back then. There's a lot of things that they grew. And not a lot of artificial stuff, but a whole lot of whole grains, a whole lot of healthy, heart healthy foods. Okay? So Jesus didn't die of heart disease. Let's be clear. Okay? And if you don't believe in the Bible, which that's really not my problem, but when you think about people even going back into the olden days, or you can go back hundreds of years, the foods that we live on now is not the foods that people lived on back then. I was told by a friend of mine, and I have been to other countries, thank God for the military. I got to go visit other places and see how people ate. And you could see people eating the same type of food that we ate. For example, when I say, like, let's just say we eat pizza here, and you can go to Italy and see how them eating pizza, but the pizza that's made there didn't have preservatives in it. And people who were eating pizza and making pizza, they weren't big and fat. They actually were kind of healthy. They didn't have heart disease issues like we do. They had a lot of olive oil in their food, and they naturally did what they did. Not a lot of preservatives. So they live longer, and their diets are much different than ours. Okay? I'm just trying to bring light to a situation, because we've got to get out of this mindset that we always need a miracle from God. And why should God always give us a miracle when He's given us a playbook on what to do? He's given us the capacity on what to do. Okay? So go back to talking about me. Diagnosed with diabetes back in 2012. I was devastated. I was hurt. I was mad because I don't have time to be sick. I got to work. I'm the sole provider for my family. I'm raising kids. I ain't got time. And I'm mad. But it didn't change the facts. What changed the facts is me changing what I ate and what I did. Sometime in, I believe it was 2013, it had to be, our church went on a fast. No, it was not a Daniel fast, let me be clear, okay? But we went on a fast, and the fast that we went on was for about 108 days, okay? It started somewhere in January. It didn't end until May. I think it didn't end until Mother's Day in May. Yeah, it ended Mother's Day in May, I remember, okay? So, it was unexpected. We didn't know it was going to end that day. But the fast that we went on, it was all vegetables, fruit. We drank water for the most part. At some point, we were able to drink green tea at some point, but we didn't start with that. At some point, we were able to eat fish, okay? We could eat any kind of fish we wanted at that time. At some point, we were able to incorporate shrimp, but it didn't start out that way. And we were asked to limit our corn, okay, potatoes, and try to eat more green leafy vegetables, more healthy vegetables, expand our variety of vegetables, okay? We were not doing butter, and we weren't doing any breads. None of that. We lived off of fish, vegetables, fruits. We could cook in olive oil. We could drink as much water as we wanted. And like I said, green tea was added. When I started this fast, okay, I don't think I was really measuring my blood sugars. I have a Dexcom measuring device now. I didn't have that back in 2012. I don't know if it existed back then. I don't think it did. But at some point, I began to notice my thinking, how I felt on this fast began to change. My sleep patterns, my sleep habits began to change. I began to just worship God and love on God. And it was amazing. And by the time I got to the end of the fast, I had lost 30 pounds. Wasn't trying to lose weight. I lost weight just not even by trying. I was still eating. I wasn't overeating, and nor did I have a desire to overeat. Okay, I had a desire to eat just enough. Okay, how strange was that? I didn't have a desire for sugar. I didn't have a desire for salt. I didn't have a desire for artificial foods. It just kind of went away. And in fact, the next time I would drink something that had sugar in it after the fast, it was like too sweet. It was ridiculous sweet. But I say all that to say that I went back to the doctor. I didn't tell the doctor because one thing that I learned is one thing that maybe some of y'all need to learn too is when I'm fasting, I don't tell people that I'm fasting. Okay, we shouldn't be. Well, the Bible says that when you wash your face and don't appear as if you're fasting, and that way nobody will know that you're fasting. So that when you're fasting, you just go on about your life. I didn't stop work because I was fasting. I didn't change. I didn't become a hermit. I didn't stop cleaning myself and washing myself. I just went to work every day as it was normal, and people began to notice that I was a lot lighter in my weight. They began to wonder, but they never said anything to me. But they could see, okay? They could tell that there was a difference. Everything about me was different. But I never told them that I was fasting. I didn't tell my doctor either. So when I went back to the doctor, um, because I had been diagnosed in 2012, the end of 2012. So we're now going into January, into 2013, I'm now into, the month of May. And I'm gone back for my doctor's appointment somewhere at the end of April, early May. Okay. When the doctor saw me, she was like, "Oh my God, you look amazing." And she began to show me my blood levels. She had done a battery of testing on me. She checked my statistics for risk factors and cholesterol levels, um, uh, basic metabolic panels, and blood counts, and all those things. And she was just amazing when she showed me the numbers. I think my A1C at the time, which was around 12 or 11, had gone down. It was 7.4. 7.4. In that time frame, a, a hemoglobin A1C checks your blood, the sugar in your blood over time. And when she checked me, I was 7.4. She was amazed. She was also amazed that I had lost 30 pounds. She couldn't understand. And by the way, during this fast, we were also commanded to exercise. So I wasn't just not eating, I wasn't starving myself. I was eating wholesome food, and I was working out. We needed to work out 30 minutes at least 3 times a week. I think I was doing more than that. I felt the energy and the urge to go work out. So it made a difference. Now, and was 2013, because my life was just different back then. Okay. I wasn't thinking about my health, and I was stuck in those habits and those ways that I ended up going back to the same things and the same foods. And I do remember our pastor saying, "Now look at what God has done for you." Once we got off the fast, look at what God has done for you. Okay. God has done something amazing for you. Now that God has done it, and you see that it can be done, because it wasn't just me. Everybody lost weight. Everybody lost weight. Everybody's health was different. Um, you know, it was just so much better for all of us who participated in this fast, for those that participated. But once we went back to the norm, we gained the weight back. Health conditions got a little bit worse. A lot of things happened along the way. Okay. Um, yeah, a lot of things happened along the way. Now, I just didn't know. I didn't know because I had never been taught about my health. And I was fasting because I was commanded to fast. Okay. But I sit here today to tell you that nobody has to tell me to fast anymore. Nobody has to tell me to eat right anymore. Nobody has to tell me to choose better for myself. I just do it. Okay? Since I don't incorporate sugar in my diet, I noticed that my blood sugars have been lower. Certain meats and foods I don't eat anymore. I just let it go because it's not helping my health. My blood sugars would stay high. Even when I call myself, I don't snack. I eat twice a day. And I might, like if I come home, if I snack, it's snacking on seeds and nuts. And, I make my snacks something that my body can tolerate. Okay. I don't eat chips. I don't buy bags of chips anymore. I used to eat pork skins. I don't eat that anymore. I don't eat a lot of things. But the whole time all of this has been going on, I'm still a believer. Okay? I'm still somebody who loves God. I worship God. I go to church. I give him the praise. I give him the glory, and I come home. You can go to church, give God the praise and the glory, come home and eat however you want, and then be mad the next day because you didn't gain 10 pounds. When God is trying, and I truly believe that God is trying to tell some of us, hey, leave that alone. Stop doing that. Some believers like to drink. I'm not an advocate of drinking. I'm going to tell you that now. But some believers believe that it's okay to drink. But if you have issues with blood sugars and if you have issues with heart disease, alcohol is not good for those that have heart disease. And alcohol is not good for those with blood sugar issues. And if you want to get back to a normal, healthy life, you would leave those things alone. I don't know for sure, but some believers, I'm not going to say that. I do know this for sure. I'm being facetious. Some believers believe in smoking. I don't, but some believers do. So for those believers that believe that smoking is okay, you gotta, smoking breaks down blood vessels. Smoking also causes you it messes with the cells in your lungs. Sometimes it restricts the areas in your lungs where oxygen and the CO2 exchanges itself. That's how we breathe. We breathe out one, we breathe in the other. But if the vessels or the areas in your lungs are restricted, that causes you to breathe, well, then that's also going to back up to your heart too. Because when you can't breathe, you can't exchange air. And if you can't take in air, it doesn't get into your blood vessels. And if it doesn't get into your blood vessels, it can't get to the heart. You're causing yourself to have issues. If you have COPD if you have asthma and then it leads to COPD because you smoke, what justice are you doing your heart? Your heart suffers for all of it. And I know that we think that we're invincible when we're 20. We're unstoppable when we're 30. And we can do all right when we're in our 40s. But when you get in your 50s and 60s and you've been doing this stuff for a long time, smoking, now we like to smoke weed and we like to vape. And smoking weed still puts things in your lungs. You talk about how it improves your health. How? A cigarette is not good for your lungs, neither is anything, because you're literally inhaling something that your body naturally doesn't want, and you're forcing your body to have a response to it, and it's called an inflammatory response. And as your body becomes inflamed, everything that it comes in contact in your body becomes inflamed. It's an immune response. Inflammatory is the first immune response, and it releases things to go fight what you've put in your body. That's what happens. And as it's fighting it and you're fighting against it, and you build up this pattern of smoking, build up this pattern of putting things in your body that don't belong, even the foods that we eat, certain foods we shouldn't be eating. But we've told ourselves it's okay. I used to be the queen when I was a teenager, and they used to talk about me so bad. When I was a teenager, and I was young, I was thin, I was not big as I am. I was a size 4. Maybe size 4 was big back then, I don't know, but I think a size 4 was small. And I used to eat every single day. I had to walk to this place. It was a store called Highs. It's similar to 7-Eleven, and I had to go get a pack of Now Laters every day. I ate Now Laters, I ate Jolly Ranchers, I ate grape heads. For those of us old school that know what this stuff is, grape heads and lemon heads. I used to go to the candy lady when I was 12, and she sold candy for 5 cents. And for a whole dollar, I could get a bag of candy. I had all kinds of goodies going to school. All I needed was a dollar, and I lived on this stuff. I didn't eat lunch at school some days. I ate candy. You wonder how your body reacts to living like that. I lived off of Now and Laters and chicken from the time I was 13 to the time I was 17. Sad to say, but it's true. For my height, I was overweight at the age of 19. Well, no, I'm sorry, 18. And I needed to go into the military, so I had to lose, I think I had to lose 20 pounds. And I did it. I exercised more, but I didn't change my way of thinking. I didn't change my diet. So eventually it caught up with me. I got pregnant twice. I had two children. I had gestational diabetes both times. And I remember the doctor saying, if you have gestational diabetes during pregnancy, trust and believe that is a precursor to you having diabetes when you are not pregnant. I was like, nah, that's not going to happen to me. And sure enough, at the ripe old age of, what was it, 34? 42. I was diagnosed with diabetes. But, the point being, it was coming. I wasn't doing anything to stop it. I wasn't doing anything to learn anything any different. I didn't change anything in my lifestyle. I wasn't doing anything to help myself. And I thought it was okay. So now here I am, 55 years old, happy to be here. And I've learned some things. Green salads are in my life. I eat lots and lots of vegetables. I can eat a salad at least 3 to 4 times a week. Like I said, I don't eat a lot of sugar. Water is my main drink, to be honest with you. Water, sometimes I drink things like this. I don't know if you can see it, but it's Mason Perrier. It's just sparkling water. There's no sugar in here. In fact, there's nothing in here. There's no sugar or sodium. I drink that. If I don't drink that, I do drink kombucha. I don't drink that all the time, but I do drink kombucha, and I drink pomegranate juice. And all of those things have good health value for my body. That may not be for you, but that's for me. But what it's done is it's allowed my blood sugars to go from being high all the time to now being within a normal range. And my outlook is much better. We're in the middle of a cold front, so I'll be honest with you. I haven't been walking. But when it hasn't been a cold front, I get up at 5:30 in the morning and I go walking by the water. I would do that every morning before I got ready and dressed for work. And then when I went to work during my lunch hour, I'd take about 3 laps around the facility. That's about a mile on my lunch hour. So I get my walk in twice a day. So being active, we can do it, is what I'm trying to say. And I say all that to say it's very disappointing. I don't want to always go to the altar to get delivered from something that I got to do something about. I don't want atrial fibrillation. I don't want heart disease. I don't want congestive heart failure. I don't want cardiomyopathy. And if I don't do something, who's going to do it for me? I'm not sitting around waiting for God to deliver me after the fact. I got to do something now. And so do you. So do you. I'm going to stop it here because I could say so much more, but I venture to say that if you really want to see a change, you really want God to do something, why don't you ask God, what should I be eating on a regular basis? Why don't you ask God, is there any mentors out there or somebody that can show me and help me to do better? Why don't you ask God, hey God, what questions should I be asking my doctor when I go to my doctor's appointments? I don't want to be on a lot of medication. What should I be doing? I'm talking to the believers today. I'm not talking to anybody else. So if you're not a believer, keep scrolling. But those of you who claim to be believers and yet you don't change anything, I've talked to believers with high cholesterol and then they wonder why they have heart palpitations. I talk to believers who have done things to help their health. I talk to believers who, they've had surgery to help their health. We have surgery to help our health to lose weight, but we don't change anything else about our diet. We don't change the type of food that we're eating. We just change the quantity of food that we're eating. And that's still not helpful. Because we've lost weight, we don't have, our body mass indexes have gone down, which is good, but we're not changing our diet. So we're still eating things that have high fat. So you still are at risk for cardiovascular disease. We're still eating things with lots of sugar, so you're still at risk for diabetes. We're still eating artificial everything. We're still eating fast food 5 to 10 times a week. We don't make anything at home. What are you cooking today? Oh, I don't cook. You don't cook, but you eat. What are you eating? You're not eating healthy. And you're going to fast food restaurants, believe that it's a lot of preservatives, it's a lot of artificial everything. Okay? I understand when you have to do it, but learn how to pre-plan meals. Learn how to make things on Sunday when you're not working and plan it out for the week so that by the time it's time for you to get food, you've got food, pack lunches. Stop eating all that white bread and white sugar and white tortilla chips and white everything. And get you some natural tortilla chips, some natural stuff. Get something that has less artificial stuff in it. This is about you. This is not about me. Listen, I'm going to be all right. I'm doing just fine. I feel fine. I'm doing fine. But you, if you really want God to move in your life, how about you start listening to him when he tells you not to eat that? How about you listen to him when he says enough is enough? When he says you've had 3 plates of that food now, that's more than enough. And you'd have had 3 slices of cake. You had 2 pieces of pies. You've eaten 5 cookies, 5 more than I asked you to. You think you can pull back from the table? He's already talking to you about losing 20 pounds. You've gained 10. And mad at God because he ain't moving on your behalf. You're kidding me, right? Anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent. I'm just saying, people of God, we got to do better. And if you find this video, I'm talking to you. But I'm also praying for you and believing that God's going to do it. Okay? All right? You take care of your heart, it's going to take care of you. All right? Bye.